Hi, I'm Natalie of Nattypat Crochet. What should we learn today? In this video, follow along with me and I'll show you how to make a long stem crocheted rose. To make a Nattypat Crochet rose, you'll need the following supplies. Some wire, preferably this green rubber-coated wire which will act as the stem for the rose. Crochet thread in size 3. You can of course use a different size if you wish. Some scissors, a tapestry needle for weaving in ends, a crochet hook. In this case I'm using size 2.75 millimeter or US size C2. It's optional to coat your final rose stem and join between the bud and the wire with floral wrap or floral tape, wire cutters, and some light gauge thin wire. So let's get started. In order to create your rose, you're going to need to make several petals. So the petal in this case is made with 2 rounds of double crochet stitches followed by a round of single crochet stitches, which is worked around that thin piece of wire. The wire is in there so that you can afterwards fold them and have your petals maintain the petal shape that you wish for the rose. Now it's up to you how many of these petals that you make. I will do anywhere from 6 to 8 typically. The more you make, the more voluminous the rose will be in the end. So up to you. So the first thing that you need to do is create a magic ring. Okay, if you don't know how to do a magic ring, you can check out my other video. Then we're going to chain 3 stitches, and this gets us up to the height of the double crochet stitch. So now that counts as 1 double crochet, so we're now going to do 15 more double crochets all around. Okay, and if you find it gets a little awkward, you can always pull on that magic ring to make that little hole in there a little smaller. Makes it a little easier to work with. Now that we've got all 15 double crochets plus our chain 3 from the beginning done, I'm going to go into the top of the chain 3 from the beginning and complete a slip stitch to join to complete the first round. Once again, we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, which will count as the first double crochet for round 2. Now all we're going to do is we're going to double crochet into the same stitch . And now we're going to complete 2 double crochet stitches in each and every remaining stitch in the round. Okay, and now that we've gone all the way around round 2, that means we're going to have a total of 32 double crochet stitches, with one of those being that chain 3 from the beginning of the round. So to finish off this round, we are going to do a slip stitch in the top of that chain 3 to join. Okay, so that is the end of round 2. So as noted before, our petals have a bit of wire running around inside of that last single crochet round, which is round 3. So in order to create that, we're first going to need to make a piece of wire here. That's going to be about long enough to go around the petal. Okay. Depending on the size of the yarn you're using, you're going to need a different length, but generally something that is around 6-8 inches is probably enough. In fact, it's more than enough. So let's get started on that third round. So I highly recommend you take your wire and you actually make a little loop at the beginning of it. Any little kind of nick or loop will prevent your stitches from falling right off. So it's a nice, important cautionary thing to do. And we are going to pick up our work again. We're going to chain 1, which gets us up to the height of, in this case, single crochet. So all the way around for round 3, we're going to be doing 2 single crochets, then a single. So 2 in one stitch, then 1 single in the next. 2 in one stitch, then 1 single in the next, all the way around the finishing. But we are going to be putting the wire inside. So first, to finish this off, we're going to insert the hook into the same stitch we started with, draw up a loop for the beginning of your single crochet. Then we're going to take the wire and we're going to put it behind like this, okay? And we're going to finish our single crochet like this. So now you can see that the wire is inside of this. So there we've got 1 single crochet. We can go ahead and do a second one in the same spot. So there we go, we now have 2. So now we're going to go all the way around this third round by going 2 single crochet in one stitch, then 1 in the next, and repeating all the way around. So as you can see, I'm making sure that the wire is being encapsulated inside of the stitches as I go around. Once again, there's 2 stitches into 1, then we go back to 1 single crochet in that stitch. Over to the next, we do 2 single crochet in the same stitch, then 1 in the next one, then 2, and so on and so forth in that pattern all the way around. And now we're at the end, so I've got to put 1 single crochet in that final one in this case. And as you can see, that little loop we put at the beginning in the wire really saved it from falling through. So we can now just grab that and kind of pull on it to even out the end and then reshape the petal a little bit. Okay, tighten up that yarn again, and this time we're going to do that same kind of slip stitch to join at the beginning stitch of the third round here. So complete that slip stitch. Okay, just like that, and then we're ready to fasten off. So just pull a little bit out. And we can go ahead and cut that off. So you can see we now have all 3 rounds completed. To finish this up, what we can do now is we can undo that little loop that we made at the beginning. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you can actually go ahead and you can twist these wires together. You know, you're not going to need a really long length of wire here, but you're going to want to have about 2 inches in order to be able to attach them to the stem. So I'm going to go ahead and wire cut that. Sometimes it takes a little wiggling. Okay. And then we need to weave in our ends. So for that, I've got a tapestry needle. Okay, so just like you would with any project, we're just going to kind of work inside of the stitches in order to weave it in. Some people prefer to do this with a crochet hook that's smaller than the one that they were working with. That is usually a good idea. However, I find when working with crochet thread that since you're already working with such small sizes that it can be a little bit challenging if you try to use a small hook. So I prefer to use a smaller tapestry needle. And if you don't know what a tapestry needle is, that's the kind that doesn't have a sharp tip on the end. So that's really just to prevent you from poking yourself in the finger in a painful way. Okay, so we're just going to kind of go through some stitches. We don't need to go through a lot. This is not something that's really going to be handled a lot by people, but of course we still don't want those little ends to fall out. So there we go. I've tightened and then woven in the end on the magic ring so that the ring itself has tightened up and closed. And then I'm going to go to the end of the work and close up this end as well. Another little tip I like to give people is that if you're finding it hard to pull the needle through, I like to have a pair of pliers nearby because it gives you a little more leverage and it will just prevent your fingers from starting to hurt after a while. So there's a little insider crochet tip. So there you go, we have one completed petal. So you can go ahead and repeat this as many times as you want. Again, the more petals you create, the fuller your final rose will be. So as you can see, I now have all the petals that I need to make my rose. I've opted to go for the fuller, more voluminous rose with 8 different petals. So to start the final assembly, you're going to need to have a piece of that thicker wire. Again, I managed to find this kind of gardening wire that has a rubber coating on it, so it's nice to use for a stem because you could bend it as you wish, and if you wanted to not bother coating it with the floral ribbon afterwards, you don't need to because it's green. If you can't get the green wire, you're going to want to go with some floral ribbon after to make it look more realistic. So I've got here my length of wire for the height of the overall rose. To be honest, you don't even need to put it on a stem. You could also just form your rose as is and attach it to a hair barrette or something entirely different if you want. So we're going to grab the first petal and we're going to make sure that all of the petals are going on with the actual front of the petal facing outwards. So if this is the inside of the flower, we want all of the fronts facing outwards. So we're going to take that and we are going to, about a little bit from the top, we're simply going to wrap that wire around. And we don't want to go too far from the bottom of the petal itself. Okay, so there we go. So there's one attached. We're then going to fold this guy over, kind of curl it on itself because that's what the inside of a flower looks like. Okay, and then we're simply just going to keep grabbing the next petal and placing it over top, wrapping it around, and then winding that wire on. Okay, it's really quite easy. Okay, so there's the next one. We're going to grab it, and you want to kind of go over top of the overlap of the petals, kind of offset each petal. So now we've got 3 on there. And again, over top, and you can keep also folding those petals, right? Because we've got the wire in them, they're going to hold whatever shape I bend them into. Okay, so now they're all attached. As you can see, and I'll just bend the wire so the rose is facing you, you can now open up all the petals. You can curl them back a little bit to really make the rose as open and full as you like, or you could also tighten them up to make the rose much, much tighter. So now the very, very final step to complete your rose is, in this case, because I like how it looks better, is to actually wrap the floral tape around your stem all the way down, creating also a small little join between the actual flower itself and the stem. So different floral tapes work better than others, and in order to kind of activate it, you're supposed to stretch it a little bit, and then it gets sticky from doing that. Okay. And then you're just going to start at the top and you're going to wrap in order to cover the wires there. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of creative folding. And then you're going to start working in an angle, just spinning that tape all the way down. Okay. You want to make sure that that tape is overlapping on itself in order to cover all of the wire that you're using. Now, if you had wanted to, you could also add another flower coming off. So you could add another piece of wire and join it here, or even another one here and add a leaf-shaped petal if you wanted. So you can really customize the flowers to be all your own. Just going to keep winding that floral tape all the way down. Okay, you get to the end, you can just rip that off. Okay, now I didn't do a totally perfect job here, so sometimes you got to go back and kind of squish it or twist it in order to fix it up. But there you go. There is your completed rose. Again, the beauty of using this kind of wire is I can bend it so it'll hold whatever shape I'd like. But you've got a beautiful rose on there, you've got it on a stem, you're ready to give it to a loved one for Valentine's Day or really any special occasion. Thanks for watching this video. For more tips and projects, visit nattypatcrochet.com.